Chapter 3. I dropped the discharge papers for Mrs. Jenkins into the chart rack and saw a woman pushing a miniature wheelchair down the hallway. Violet Marsh. Why did her mother bring her here again? She was only 8 years old, but had probably spent more time in the hospital than I had over the last few years. There was a nationally renowned pediatric hospital, Pearson, 10 minutes away. I even checked Google Maps one day. They lived just as close to Pearson as they did ours, but Mom brought her here every time. I steeled myself for a second time in an hour and followed her down the hallway. May as well get things started early. Violet never showed up unless she was seriously ill. I swore her mom waited until the last minute, and then we had to fight an uphill battle against the disease process. Her mother parked the wheelchair next to the bed and helped Natalie lift Violet onto the bed. The child winced when her backside touched the mattress. ER cots were not the most comfortable place to spend time, but they weren't bad enough to make someone wince the first time they lay on one. Especially not a kid who was used to being in the hospital. "Hi, Dr. Turner," said her mother, turning to face me. Yes, we knew each other well enough that I didn't need to introduce myself. A yellow tint colored the whites of her eyes. I'd noticed it on prior visits, but it seemed worse today. "Hey there, I saw you two coming down the hallway, and figured I'd get things started. How's she doing today?" Violet's mother sat down on a chair in the corner and pointed at the bed. "Look at her. She's miserable. She slept most of the last 2 days and won't eat anything. I've only gotten her to take a few sips of water. Maybe I should have allowed them to put in a feeding tube during the last admission." Violet had spinal muscle atrophy, a genetic condition that led to progressive weakness. This led to difficulty walking, swallowing, and eventually breathing. Natalie rolled Violet's sleeve up to place the blood pressure cuff on her arm. The machine buzzed as it pumped air through the tubing to increase the pressure in the cuff until it blocked blood flow into her arm. She must not have liked the feeling because she groaned and tried to roll away from the pain, but her body didn't move more than an inch. Her mom jumped up at the sound of the groan. She moved to her bedside, ran her hand from Violet's forehead along her cheek and down onto her shoulder. A shrill beep blared from the monitor as it expressed its displeasure with her heart rate. I agreed with its interpretation. 170 was too high. I put on a pair of gloves and touched Violet's exposed ankle. It felt hot against my chilled hands. It was nearly impossible to keep your hands warm when you wash them 300 times a shift. I pulled her sock down and shook my head at the color of her toes. Purple. She was in shock, probably from an infection. But from where? Pneumonia, urinary tract, skin? "Ma'am, I think Violet is septic today. Is there anything you can think of that might be a source of an infection?" She broke eye contact and glanced down at Violet's hips. "She has a wound now. It wasn't there when I brought her in last time." Her eyes found mine again and her head dipped slightly. "I take great care of her. I really do. I change her immediately and never leave her in the same position for more than a few hours. That's more than I can say for Pearson." Oh no. Did a hospital cause a wound? "What happened?" I asked. Her mother's face tightened and she met my gaze. "I never leave her alone in the hospital. Never. But one night I had to. It was 2 weeks ago. I had a gallbladder attack after eating pizza in the cafeteria and had to be seen in an ER. Pearson wouldn't see me since I was an adult. They made me come here. Anyway, the next morning when I helped the team change her sheets, she had a big red mark on her butt. It was the exact outline of a stupid novelty pen the nurse was using. I think it was Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. She must have dropped her pen on the bed and not noticed it. Violet laid on it all night, and those hard plastic pieces dug into her skin." She looked away from me again. "I think the wound is infected." Of course. That's why she winced when we transferred her. I looked at Natalie and nodded. She knew what was next. We took positions on opposite sides of Violet, and I pushed while Natalie pulled. The stench of infected skin filled the room as the wound lifted off the bed. Natalie and I met each other's gaze again. The wound was deep and clearly infected. It wasn't quite to bone, but it was close. All this from a misplaced pen. We took a quick sample of fluid from the wound and then rolled her back as gently as we could. I looked up at her mother. It's clear this wound is the likely source of her illness. I need to order antibiotics and fluids. I hated this next suggestion, but it's what needed to happen. And we need to get her transferred back to Pearson. They're the only hospital around here who can manage this in a patient her age. I figured you'd say that. It's fine. I'm prepared this time. I won't be leaving her room. And I've got a few things to say to their director when we get over there. Thank you for always taking good care of her. Her mom reached her hand out across the bed to shake mine. The fingers twitched in a fine tremor that improved when I gripped her hand. No problem at all. I just wish there was more I could do. Unless you can fix her genes, I'm afraid there's not. I nodded and stepped toward the door until a faint whisper stopped me cold. What was that? I turned back toward Violet in time to see her lips quiver. Her mother leaned down toward her ear. Can you say that again, sweetie? I think he can hear you now. Violet's tongue popped out slowly and traced across her lips, probably trying to apply moisture to the cracked tissue. Thank you, Doctor. Her left hand rose off the bed slightly and formed a loose fist. Such kind words from a child with everything stacked against her. I walked back over and gave her a fist bump. When she first started coming in, she had no problem giving me a solid fist bump. Now her disease has progressed to the point she has difficulty raising her arm. Soon she won't be able to swallow or breathe on her own. There is one more thing I could do for her. I left the room in search of a cup of ice water and a mouth sponge stick.